Hello, welcome to The Gavel. I am Terry Ikumi. Federal lawmakers continue to sit once weekly as their staff and aides work from home. This week on The Gavel, we look at the activities of both chambers of the National Assembly separately, beginning with the House of Representatives. Now, Tuesday's plenary was filled with motions, most of them related to the COVID-19 pandemic. The House passed a resolution urging the federal government to halt the repatriation of Almajiri to their states of origin, which is an agreement among the northern governors. The House also questioned the use of foreign airlines to airlift Nigerians from other countries. Take a listen. Tuesday's plenary in the House of Representatives began with an applause for frontline health workers, particularly nurses, in commemoration of the International Nurses' Day. 5 bills were read for the second time. One of them was for an act to alter the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria to allow for independent candidacy to any elective office in Nigeria.
Colonization forced by China. There's an urgent need.
One of the matters of urgent public importance raised was on the need to review and renegotiate existing China-Nigeria loan agreements.
Worried by the startling revelation, as published in an online article by Mama Ekeruchi in Fair Business Economy of 26, 2018, that Chinese company generate their highest revenue from Nigeria. Between 2000 and 2016, these companies have earned 34.2 billion from implementing projects in Nigeria, some of which are tied to loan agreements. Unemployment, there are about 64,500 Chinese workers that are employed locally. Thus, we are losing on all fronts. Resolved that since the National Assembly has been put in the dark how most of these Chinese loans were collected and utilized, yet we appropriate a high-powered investigation committee to be set up by this Honorable House to look into all extant China-Nigeria loan agreements since 2000 with a view to ascertaining their viability, regularization, and renegotiating them if possible.
Those against, please say nay.
The rest of the session was filled with motions relating to the COVID-19 pandemic. Lawmakers called on the federal government not to ignore herbal medicine as a possible source of cure for COVID-19.
Further informed that Madagascar, a small African country, took their destinies in their own hands, and to the consternation of World Health Organization and the Center for Disease Control, developed a herbal drink for the treatment of COVID-19 patients from a medical plant Atesmia Annual, which their herb research institutes have been studying for over 30 years. Madagascar so far has not recorded any deaths from COVID-19 cases. Cognizant that in recognition of this feat by Madagascar, the World Health Organization has come out with a statement in support of considering Madagascar's herbal drink as possible treatment for COVID-19. The president of the country said the factory for the mass production of the herbal drink will be operational in 1 month. Further cognizant that the Madagascar herbal drink has received recognition and boost from other African presidents of Tanzania, Equatorial Guinea, Uganda, Egypt, Senegal, Guinea-Bissau, and Comoros have ordered the Madagascar herbal drink for the treatment of COVID-19 cases in their various countries. Worried that various similar claims of breakthroughs in the cure of COVID-19 by our scientists and alternative medical practitioners have received virtually no attention from the government, the Ministry of Health, the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19, or the National Center for Disease Control. Further worried that the government and its agencies have instead volunteered for the World Health Organization Solidarity Program, where sadly our citizens will be used as lab rats for World Health Organization's untested and unproven vaccine and treatments that are not indigenous to our people.
One lawmaker called for intervention of the House in the case involving the index case in Benue State, which has generated some controversy.
Disturbed that the details of this Mrs. Susan Idoko Okwe Lawani is not consistent with that of the lady who was referred from the Benue State Teaching Hospital, Makodi, to Babalada Specialist Hospital, Abuja. Furthermore, the personal information on the laboratory results from the National Center for Disease Control did not also tally with her personal details. Cognizant of the current situation in the country amid the global pandemic, COVID-19 is real, but not a death sentence or a yardstick for discrimination and human rights infringement or violation, and her case shouldn't be different. Concerned that Mrs. Susan Idoko Okpeni Lawani, who is bereaved, is beginning to deteriorate psychologically and also having suicidal thoughts. This is worsened by the fact that she has been in isolation for about 50 days without any form of treatment. It is imperative to stress further that the test result given to her ab initio was questionable, as he didn't carry her information correctly. She has also been forced to take treatment for COVID-19, even in her asymptomatic state. Results: mandate the National Center for Disease Control through the Federal Ministry of Health to critically evaluate her as a matter of urgency, and if proven otherwise, should be allowed to go home. To also carry out quality contact tracing, encourage persons who are symptomatic to go for proper clinical evaluation and management, with prompt release when they return to their pre-morbid state.
And another called on the House to protect Nigerian workers from compulsory leave and massive job losses due to COVID-19.
The House notes that the COVID-19 coronavirus pandemic, which is significantly challenging the stability of corporate organizations and governments and ravaging the world, and has no doubt distorted global economic ecosystems. Also notes that protection and support for the organized and informal private sector workers under this unfortunate lockdown is very necessary for both continued economic and social development of Nigeria. Aware that a large number of Nigerian workers are being employed by both the organized private sector and big corporate organizations, as well as the informal sector and medium-scale industries with little or no job security, and those workers have no other benefit like the regular civil servants as provided in the Labour Act. Worried that there are indications that most employers of labor after the coronavirus crisis may not be willing or able, when it comes to taking the decision to terminate a large number of their employees, judging by perception from economic and corporate data, largely due to the unforeseen and unexpected COVID-19 outbreak.
The attention of lawmakers was also drawn to community transmission, which has started claiming lives in Jigawa State.
Concerned about the alarming rate of community transmissions, which has started claiming lives, as was the case in Hadeja, Dutse, Birnin Kudu, Gumel, Malimaduri, and many other local governments. Aware that Jigawa State has no single testing center, and most of the hospitals and health institutions are not equipped adequately in terms of facilities, drugs, and personnel, resolves: 1. Urge the federal government to urgently establish at least 5 testing centers in the state and equip them with necessary facilities and drugs. 2. Commend the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 for their prompt actions on the situation in Hadeja.
Following report of manhandling and deaths of Nigerians by security operatives in the course of enforcing the COVID-19 lockdown, an investigative motion to that effect was adopted.
The response of the police authorities has neither been replicated by the other security agencies whose personnel was implicated in the killings, nor has been severe enough to serve as deterrents in an environment of gross human rights abuses by security operatives. The House is also worried that the continued killing of innocent Nigerians by security operatives in undermining the genuine intentions and casting negative aspersions on the efforts of the federal and state governments in the fight against the COVID-19 pandemic. The House believes that the House of Representatives and indeed the National Assembly can do a lot to safeguard and enforce the protection of the fundamental rights of innocent citizens, including their right to life and dignity of the human person from abuse by security institutions of the state.
Another motion querying the use of foreign airlines to airlift Nigerians from other countries was also considered and adopted.
Worried that the actions of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Nigerians in the Diaspora Commission, Ministry of Aviation, and the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 negate the economic objectives enshrined in Chapter 2 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, when there are competent local airlines fit to render the same services instead of foreign airlines, which threatens the economic well-being of the country and likely contributes to retrenchment of workers by the local airlines, if not patronized. Aware that oftentimes local airlines such as Air Peace, Max Air, and Asman Air contribute immensely to national income accounting by appropriate tax payments and employment of Nigerians, thereby enhancing welfare and national productivity.
The House requests that
The attention of lawmakers was also drawn to the decision of the northern governors to repatriate Almajiri to their state of origin.
The House is also concerned that the evacuation of the children is in violation of the interstate travel ban currently enforced by the government. Further,
Honorable Danjuma.
That the nature and manner in which the children are being transported is dehumanizing and has brought them pain and untold hardships. Disturbed that in some cases these children, after traveling for so many hours under harsh weather, were rejected and turned back by their states of origin, or at best they were kept in isolation under dehumanizing and demeaning conditions. The House is alarmed that such action is capable of putting Nigeria on the spotlight of human rights violators and at the same time jeopardize our fight against COVID-19. The House resolves, 1, to urge the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 to enforce the interstate travel ban order and direct the governors concerned to immediately halt the evacuation of the Almajiri. 2, urge the NCDC to cancel the governor's concern on the threat posed by the evacuation of the children at this critical period. 3, urge the Federal Minister of Humanitarian Affairs and Disaster Management to include the Almajiri children among the beneficiaries of palliatives being distributed by the federal government to the less privileged. 5, urge the Federal Minister of Health to examine the health conditions of the Almajiri children. 6, urge the Northern Governors Forum to rescind their decision on banning Almajiri system of education until those already in the system are provided for in the universal basic education and technical education system.
Mr. Speaker, I want to, one of the prayers, the last one, where she said, urge the Northern Governors Forum to rescind their decision on banning Almajiri system of education until those already in the system are provided for the universal basic and technical education. Mr. Speaker, this was a decision they made. So I would suggest that an amendment should not ask them to resign, but they should urge the Northern Governors Forum to provide for the universal, to provide the Almajiris with the requisite tools for the universal basic and technical education system.